Hello, 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 Dr. Rowe here. I have an image behind me. I'm just going to move off to this side or this side. And as you can see, that's people communicating. And I've written this down actually. I want to tackle interpersonal skills in the workplace. Now, we've had a really tricky couple of years. A lot of stuff been done online. People are sat at home. And actually, one of the things that's happening is people are going back into the workplace and having to get used to the dynamics of being in the workplace again, dealing with other people. And this question of interpersonal skills has been rearing its head again. And actually, from a communication perspective, this is absolutely vital. So let me give you 4 key things I think, certainly in my book, are in the top 10 of interpersonal skills. And as you go through this, I want you to ask yourself a sincere question, and that is, am I doing this on a scale of 1 to 10? How well am I applying what Dr. Rowe's teaching me here? Because these interpersonal skills really play out massively. Now, let me just do that and move across to this side a little bit. Okay, so what are these skills that I think are worth considering? And remember, if you have a meeting coming up, you're getting together with some people in the workplace in the next week, next few days. Maybe you're a bit nervous about your communication skills. Maybe you're even at a point where you're feeling like you're loggerheads with other people or certain other people, and you're struggling with these interpersonal skills. And this is one of the most common failures. That's a term that people use. I feel like I'm failing my communication skills, or one of the common areas of fear when it comes to going back into or working in a group environment are these interpersonal skills. I think, without a doubt, number 1 is observation. Now, we could talk for an hour or two just on this. And in fact, when I do my online events, even the face-to-face live events, we get people to have interpersonal, non-communicative experiences where they're just observing the other person. And it's fascinating what I see come out of that. I've even done this with children and adults, where a child is looking into the eyes of an adult and then feeds back what they observe about them. And I've seen people get emotional, both tearful, but also ecstatic as well. So I think we've got to a point in history where this thing here, our phone, is so distractive that people will often be face to face with somebody, but they'll still be looking at their phone. They're not observing the other person. They're not reading the signs. So for me, one of the big things is the face. What are the eyes doing? What's the nostrils doing? Somebody can just slightly flare their nostrils if they're remotely annoyed about something. They might tilt their head slightly. They might frown. Ears can change. The mouth's a big telltale sign as well. Observation of the face, observation of the feet, observation of the chest, the breathing patterns, the hands, all those things are telltale signs when it comes to observing the other person, understanding how they're feeling, how they're reacting. I even do mind reading as a fun exercise on some of our events that we run for people. So I cannot stress interpersonally the skill I think is really in that top 3, probably in the top 2, arguably the top 1, is observation. Now, of course, we can argue self-observation is equally as important. Yes, that is very true. But what I want to do here for your perspective is to focus you on the other person just for a moment. Number 2, this is the self-awareness element now, is how are you engaging with that person? How are you responding to that person? When I talk about the archetypes in my communication system, we talk about 4 key archetypes. And one of those archetypes is the sovereign. The sovereignty that sits within us is somebody that sits and resides internally and is able to look at things in such a way that they can self-reflect, they can look at the overall situation, they can almost float out of their body, look back in at what's going on and see what's happening. So if I move out the way for a minute, there's people communicating here. And if I move this for you, look, these 2 chaps are talking. This person here is observing, hands in their pocket. Maybe they're nervous, maybe they're not, maybe they're listening, maybe they're watching. This person here may be so engaged in the conversation, but has become unaware that maybe this person's become slightly disconnected from the conversation. Let's go to this one and let me move out of the way here. So you can see the dynamics with these 4 ladies over there. I think there's a gentleman there with his glasses talking. In a situation like that, if you're able to, whilst being present and observing the other person, notice your reaction. Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling tense? Are you feeling resistance? Can you feel them pressing a button? Are they hitting a value that is in conflict with yours? There's all a number of things that can happen. So these interpersonal skills of being able to observe the other person, self-reflect on you as well, and just taking a deep breath really and just saying, calming for a moment. Maybe you just need to chill the situation out. Self-awareness is essential because that enables you to steer, redirect, re-engage, connect with the other person. Number 3, and that leads me to adaptability. You see, the thing is, you're not going to be able to adapt. And I think this is a massively important skill. How can you adapt into a situation that may be building up and becoming tense if you're not observing the other person, if you're not self-aware? Because if you're not aware of what's happening and you're not observing them, you got nothing to adapt into because you've completely missed the point. So learning to be able to adapt in any situation is really powerful. And that's where I think the archetypes come in. Because knowing all of the 4 key archetypes in any communication allows you to flick from one to the other, being an observer in each moment and asking yourself the question, in this situation, what would this archetype do? What would this archetype do? And I think, personally, if you watch somebody who's a really great communicator, you'll see them naturally moving in and out of the 4 archetypes. Now, remember, adaptability is also being able to see the other person's perspective. It's being able to come up with solutions. It's being able to pause for a minute, laying the problem out, looking at it. Maybe everybody sits around and just takes a breather. Let's write down on paper what it is we want to solve, what we think the problem is, bring that to the table, and then let's see if we can adapt around the situation. So that's a really important skill to have in any situation, interpersonally. And the last one is persuasion. And this is a whole conversation in its own right. Knowing how to persuade somebody about the thing that you're passionate about, the idea that you've got, the product that you want to sell, maybe persuading them to change direction. If it's a group of people and everybody's playing in one direction, you realize it's the wrong direction. How can you slow them up, pull them up, press pause, redirect them? So knowing how to do that is absolutely essential. And that's a skill that can be learned. Again, we're not going to do it in this video today because there's so many different parameters and different variables when it comes to persuasion. But remember, persuasion also is about understanding the person's perspective, observing again, finding out what their pain is, and then providing a solution and persuading them that the solution is down a different path. That's a conversation for another day. All right. 4 things. Hopefully that was useful, and I will see you on the next video. Remember to follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube, go and have a look at cicado.com/podcast. Maybe you get some value out of the podcast that we run, and I will see you on the next video.